Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So guys, it's not looking good. Let's talk about it. Alright, so I gotta preface this video by saying that everything I say here is pure 100% rhetorical speculation. Do not take any of it as fact. In fact, make sure you do 10 times the amount of research and time in the ingestion of other information for every minute of my content that you consume. Okay, make sure you go and do that. I am by no means an expert in geopolitics. There is so much nuance, plus all the stuff that we don't know as the peasant class. There's so much I cannot begin to make any absolute claims about what is going to happen. But it doesn't look good. We need to judge these situations by the actions that governments and militaries are taking and not by what the media mouthpieces are telling us, because we know that up until the last minute, okay, up until the time that the bombs actually hit, we are going to be told that everything is just fine in order to minimize public distress and quell any potential panic that might arise. But here is what we know so far. Here is what we've seen transpire in just the last month. Remember, I did that video about a month ago about how I have a bad feeling about something, and it was around the time when that satellite was shot down close to the space station, which created a situation where the space station astronauts had to go into emergency mode. I don't really remember what that entails, but it something to the effect of they had to get in their escape pods just in case the whole Kevlar syndrome, which was caused by the Russians shooting down one of their own satellites, caused a massive space incident, okay? And around that time, I had anticipated that maybe this had something to do with what was going on right now, these tensions between East and West. Now, we are seeing the breakdown of talks between NATO and Russia. We've seen this stuff going on in Kazakhstan, which they say was about food prices and oil prices. But anytime they say that, there's usually something else going on. I mean, we know that that's the case based on what happened in the Middle East back in 2008. You know, we have all these color revolutions and all this subversion going on. That's what were the 3 steps of war outlined by the economic hitman. One was put economic sanctions on a country, then try to subvert the country from the inside out, create these phony revolutions and put in puppet dictators. And the last step, of course, is going to a full-on kinetic war. So we've seen what happened in Kazakhstan and the Russian involvement there. We've seen cyber attacks on the Ukraine, which is kind of a flashback to 2014, where they shut down a Ukrainian power station, I believe, via cyber attack. And that's where people really got a first look at how cyber warfare could cripple critical infrastructure. If you guys don't recall, last year we made a video on what would happen in the case of a full-on, full-scale cyber war. Go and watch that video. Check it out. Now I'm going to please do a brief interlude here and ask you guys, go and check out my last video, which is being completely forgotten about by the YouTube algorithm. I'm going to keep it nice, okay? If any other YouTube channel posted that video, particularly a gun channel, would likely get millions of views. I think that was a great video. The feedback, we got 99% like ratio. Everybody seems to be enjoying it. So go and show it some love, like, comment, and I would be gracious if you even shared it. It was all about ballistics in snow and whether or not bullets can penetrate snow and how deep they can penetrate snow. Stuff that may well be relevant if this situation continues to spiral out of control. So go show it some love, if you will. But getting back to the point, are we seeing diplomats being expelled from countries? Yes. Are we seeing Canada sending in special forces? Yes. Is that just a obligatory thing because we have, I believe it's the 3rd highest Ukrainian population in the world? Possibly. Is it just a symbolic gesture, a show of solidarity? Is it virtually meaningless in terms of what it's going to translate to in a full-on kinetic war between Russia and Ukraine? I don't know. I can't say. I don't know anything, guys, like I said. But are there countries now who are really vying to get into NATO? Yes. Is there a massive amount of Russian troops on the Ukrainian border and ever more increasing amounts? Yes. Are there armaments being sent from the biggest players in NATO to the Ukraine? Yes, there is. Has there been market turbulence lately? Yes, there is. And usually, remember, you know, the big players, they know what's up. They know what's coming. So if the market's going to do something bad, usually they're going to start selling well in advance of that if they have some sort of insider information that somebody's going to make a move which is going to create economic ripples throughout the world. Are we seeing the Ukraine gearing up for war? Well, at least in the media reports that I've seen, yes, they are. And in some cases, even getting the population accustomed to air raid siren drills and things of that nature. Are we seeing an intensification in war saber rattling and just rhetoric even on the mainstream media, even though a big part of their job is to make sure that we don't create mass panic? Yes, absolutely. I never thought I would hear that nuclear war narrative talked about as much as I've heard it in the last few months. Do we have China on the other end of the spectrum who's been stockpiling food and telling its population to prepare for God knows what? Yes, we have been seeing that. Have we seen level 4 travel advisories, basically advising you not to travel from the Ukraine for Canada? Yes, we've seen that, and I believe we've also seen that with the United States. So all things are pointing towards some sort of kinetic engagement. What that's going to amount to, God only knows. But it doesn't appear that sanctions or the threat of sanctions, to my limited knowledge of this situation, is going to phase Russia in a lot of ways. And you got to think, you may put sanctions on countries, and that may be a strategy you use to passively, aggressively try to force a nation to bend to your will. But what it actually does is it forces those nations affected to be self-sufficient. And Russia knows this, as well as all the other countries who've been living under crippling sanctions for many years, in some cases decades. They've been forced to become self-sufficient, albeit at a huge economic blow. But the country which is imposing the sanctions is the one who is completely enmeshed in this globalized economy. One in which, if there was big stuff that went down with Russia involved, and then if, China decided to do Taiwan at the same time because NATO was occupied, then the people who are going to suffer immensely aren't the countries who have some domestic production capability. It's going to be us, okay? It's going to be the people who are used to this whole just-in-time delivery system, this whole Amazon thing where you get free shipping and it's right to your door the very next day. There's going to be a lot of real cranky Generation Z and millennials when the reality of this world that we've created for ourselves with imposing these sanctions on other countries, it could backfire in a big way if we did get into some major kinetic engagement, not counting the fact that Russia is a key supplier of raw materials and minerals to Europe and many other countries. And you can impose as many sanctions to the point where they just finally say, okay, well, we're going to do something back, and that could potentially escalate more tensions between Europe and Russia. And when I talk about the countries, I'm not talking about countries as if I'm referring to the actual individual people in those countries. The people who are just like me and you, who we would get along and, sing and dance and drink beers and, do all that fun stuff if we were together. So this whole dichotomy of putting countries against one another, we know that the working class people of the world are relatively unified, okay? And we don't want to fight with each other. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in an age-old dialectic which is never going to end until it ends badly. I hate to end with such a depressing thought because I only have a bit of time left, but it almost seems like World War III is kind of inevitable. I just think we're going to look back in history. Well, I probably won't be around. You might not be around, but I think they're going to look back and they're going to see, how did they not see it as being so inevitable? It just seems like it's going to happen. There has to be one victor at some point. What it's all going to look like, I don't know, guys. All I can say is what we've been saying on this channel for years. Just stay prepared, stay ready, because the shizzy could hit the fizzy at any time. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. We got a lot of great content coming.